Pete Knox,
Here.
Kelly Sutherland,
Here.
Lawrence Green,
Here.
Michelle Weber,
Here.
Heather Murphy.
Here.
All are present. Any adjustments to the agenda? Seeing none, comments from the CEO?
Yes, just a couple, and thank you. Yesterday, we had Congresswoman Hoyle come visit, and she spent about 90 minutes here along with the team. Michelle Weber was able to join us along with Pete Knox. She did drive a bus, not just one loop, but she went around the building. She has some braking issues, but everything else was fantastic. And the joke was that, you know, if the DC thing doesn't work out, hey, come on back. We'll be real happy. But she was really good. She was very interested in recruitment, interested in where we are with apprenticeship program, and offered support as we needed it for that. So we're happy to have her come visit, and thankful for our two commissioners to be able to come visit as well. It was different, right? She was running 30 minutes early, so she showed up 30 minutes early. So we got to spend some time with her, so that was good. I also want to thank Pete. Pete did a good job for us the other week up in Salem. He testified on behalf of Senate Bill 1553-1, which passed today, I understand, and be going to the House Judiciary Committee. That Senate bill is about drug use in bus shelters. And Pete did a good job talking about how important it is for us to feel safe as we're using the system, which we talked about last month relating to the ABBG survey as well. And then finally, I want to thank ATU here. I don't see ATU here. I want to thank staff and ATU for productive negotiation meeting last week. We were able to get a tentative agreement with our IT bargaining unit, and up next will be public safety. So I believe there was an initial background discussion today with ATU. So we look forward to that as well. And then my last piece is you all may be aware of Sarah Koski. Yeah, she's doing work for us. She is our community liaison. Sarah does a lot of work for us in explaining operations policies to the nonprofit organizations that work along with the houseless community, but also bringing feedback from them to us on how we can better serve and better coexist. We are going to be re-implementing our policy on what we can bring on vehicles. There's been a rash of very large bags with recyclables that lead to mess on the buses. We want to avoid that. Sarah was able to split that baby, though. You know, understanding that people need to make money, and that's how folks make money. We're able to come into a partnership with Everyone Village, along with the recycling, I forget the name of the recycling center, along with us, to come up with an alternative approach to allowing folks to access recyclables not using the fixed route bus system. So that's the value that she brings. I'm going to have her at the next meeting introduce herself and speak to the work that she's doing with the board, with us rather. And she's done things even through the ice storm on understanding, you know, where some of the gaps were, what some of the other organizations were doing. Previously, she was getting information out around warming centers, so she's done a really good job in bridging our services. We're also going to be working with another group called Reveille. Reveille is a nonprofit that helps veterans, tribal folks, people coming out of the military, to understand what services are available to them, and works as a concierge service to walk them through various state level services and federal services available. We feel that partnership's important to us because they also can identify people in crisis and can help our public safety folks. They recently were redoing a hotel on 6th, right by one of our MX stations, and that's going to be housing for their program. They have a program that is a few years, and it's designed to have people be self-sustaining as they exit the program. So more information to come on that as well. But we feel these are both strategies that will help us to better serve our community in ways that our community needs right now. So next month we'll have Sarah Koski here, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions for her. With that, if there's any questions or send my report.
Great. Thank you very much. Next, we have public comment. I don't see anybody signed up on the sheet. Do we have anybody online?
Viewers online, if you'd like to testify, would you use the raising hand symbol? No.
Looks like we don't. Thank you. There's no consent agenda. We'll move into business updates, discussions, and presentations. First, we have the Employee of the Month for February, and I believe Cosette is making that presentation.
Well, good evening, Chair and Board. I'm very happy this evening to present to you Gary Robbins, who is our February Employee of the Month. Gary has been working with LTD since 2013, so is that right? Yeah, yes. 2013, December 2013. So he's been with us for 10 years as a bus operator. Gary's also an instructor, and he takes his job very seriously. He approaches his job with professionalism and really wanting to provide excellent customer service. And a lot of integrity. And that was demonstrated when Gary was out with a new bus operator doing some training. And he noticed that there was an individual sitting on a bench who didn't seem to be kind of right. So he got off his bus, he checked on him, he called it into ops, and emergency services were dispatched, and the person was taken to medical services. And I can't imagine that poor bus driver, who was a new bus driver, got to see for firsthand a really excellent example of good customer service and how we serve our community. And again, what I hear and what I understand when I talk to folks who work with Gary is that Gary demonstrates this every day and in every way. He takes so much pride in his work, and he wants to serve his community the best that he can. So it's my pleasure to introduce Gary Robbins.
Thank you. So that night, a lot of things went correctly, and I owe a lot of it to the training department, operations, and the supervisors that were out there. So with their support, everything came together that day, and it made things a little bit more easier to get through. So I have all of them to thank for this. So, and thank you.
Don't go away, Gary. First of all, thank you for making a difference in that one individual's life, and every day making a difference for all the people that ride your bus and for the people that you train. You're making a big difference in this community, and we appreciate it. So we have a little token, a little pin for you. Awesome. We have a lot of stuff. A plaque. Cool. A little monetary thank you for you. A letter expressing our appreciation. And a great poster.
Oh, that's me.
That's you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Shift around. Our next item is an update on our weather events that we had a few weeks ago. It seems like a long time ago, but sometimes it seems like it was just yesterday. That's the ice storm that everybody endured. Jameson's going to give the presentation.
See what it looks like from this side. Well, thank you. Just wanted to color in what happened during the ice storm a bit, really from the purpose of describing what we were looking at, but also what are some next steps that can help us better serve our community. I really feel that this ice storm, while impactful to our community in all the worst ways, it can be dress rehearsal for something bigger. And I think we need to be more prepared. So the decision-making process during that time was made through really three questions. What can we do? You know, we were living in an ice cube, so what can we really do? Is the community safe if we do it, and are our employees safe if we were to do it as well? So we had eyes on the street the entire time. I hate to give Jake, where's Jake? He's not in here. Hate to give Jake his props because Jake and I have this little back and forth thing. But, you know, Jake McCollum, I got to work side by side with him throughout this process. And Jake and his team really kept, you know, they stayed here. They kept their eyes on what was going on, and along with Josh from Public Safety, really assessing what was going on in the street, but also Matt and his team with our facilities, because you can't get to the bus without getting to the bus stop. So that was important. So the impacts that we had that led to us shutting down from the 13th to the 18th. So we shut down the evening, Saturday that evening, and we reopened Thursday morning on the 18th. The impacts were, you know, we were unable to help people to get where they need to be. And if you think about our fixed route, that's one thing, but also our ride source service is another thing. And a lot of those trips involve dialysis and medical appointments and things like that. John Allen's group did a good job coordinating with emergency services, so they were able to provide some of those trips. We did get a request from RideSource to use our supervisor vehicles. Apparently, the Fords that we have, or the Chevys that we have, run better in the snow than the vehicles that they typically use. So we have some recommendations for that as well. Our employees here experience the same thing as the rest of the community. We have quite a few employees that are in Cottage Grove or in Creswell, also in Thurston, and they had the same issues. They were out of power. They couldn't shower. They couldn't get here. They had their families to take care of as well. So that was something that we experienced. The other fact of the matter is buses don't do well on ice. Okay, they just don't. And when you talk about a 60-foot articulated bus with the back end swinging around, no one wants to see the business side of that. So we did have two accidents during that time. They weren't major accidents, but we did have two. The bigger piece that we get is stuck buses. And no matter what time we decide to curtail service or cancel service, there's always folks on there well after the time service stops getting those buses unstuck and back here. So we had two full-time employees out there that worked the whole shift just doing that, getting those buses back. Estimated cost, because we tracked that, was about $125K over that time. I have a breakdown of what that was if you're interested. A lot of it was tree service and other things, physical ice removal. You know, when I say that we were living in an ice cube, literally, as you'll recall, there was constant chipping away of the ice. So we brought in some outside folks. Historically, LTD has volunteers that go clean up the bus platforms. Historically, we do that. No, our risk management person, yeah, he agrees with me. We've got to have other people come in. We don't want slip and falls. God forbid, we don't want heart attacks and things like that. So this ice storm, that added up. We found out that it's hard to charge electric buses when you're on backup generator and backup generators having issues. So we'll have more of that conversation later. And then also we decided to open the facility to families that could get here if they wanted to shower or use the electric or watch TV or whatever they wanted to do. But then we got the boil notice. So that was problematic as well. What worked well? I think there's some things that did work well. The operations team did a good job. I'm very committed to community service. And when I say it was painful to cancel a service, so it was the right thing to do. The employees all felt that way, so I wanted to express that. But our external communications team did a really good job. They prepped for this storm in a different way. They let the media know. They put it out on social media as well that there may be some changes. Continue to look here to see if service gets modified. So they did that well before the storm hit. Internally, we did a good job communicating as a management team on what was going on in the streets. We had a daily briefing. just to be able to assess conditions and decide where we need to go next. ATU was doing the same thing with their members as well, and we were doing the same thing with the employees. And we were also looking at what RideSource was doing as well. So pretty comprehensive look to see what the conditions were, and then go back through that lens of those initial 3 questions on what can we do. Decision-making went well. I think that having the eyes on the street and having those communications, we're able to make decisions a little faster. I think the team realized that it's okay to make that decision. We developed some muscle memory there. I also think that the communications group, again, did a good job getting back to the media with timely updates on what we were going to do. So I thought that all worked well. There are some opportunities. You know, we always want to look at how can we improve, how can we get better. So there are some opportunities. One is, you know, IT is developing an alarm for when we lose power. You know, why is that important? Our generator went down, the exhaust vent froze, and we lost power, and we were 20 minutes away from losing our servers. So we're going to create an alarm to know when we lose power, so we can address that right away. But we're also going to be looking at redundancies on how we manage our servers, make sure our data is backed up, whether that's cloud-based or remote backup server locations. I'll leave that to Scott Sorensen to figure out, but that's important for us to do. Simple as ice cleats. You know, ice cleats for our employees to get around. We had several slip and falls. Here we had a broken nose. We had someone hit their head on the curb. So we're going to be looking at those anti-slip devices for our employees. Facilities had them. Most of the facility staff had them, and that's why they were able to clear off. I watched them clear off. Notice I said watch, not help. I had to keep moving. I watched them clear off part of Springfield Station, and it was a lot of work. We had some tired people here, but those cleats will help. We talked about the vehicles for RideSource, having chains or cables for those. Again, not just for RideSource to use them, but for our public safety and our road supervisors to be able to use those to get around the different locations. Those, again, handle much differently than our smaller colorway RideSource vehicles and our buses. We are now looking at, and we do some pre-treat work. I've confirmed that with Joe and Matt today. But we're going to look at what some other options are. And we're having some conversations with ODOT to understand what some other options are for pre-treating our surfaces. Again, it was, I don't know if there's anything that will combat what we got hit with, but understanding what's available to us and how we balance that off with protecting our environment is critical. And then finally, a better command and control system internally. We did a good job meeting together and going through what we need to talk about to make decisions, but it has to have a really strong muscle memory. It has to be assigned. So we're going to look at our planning and make sure that is up to date and that we practice on that a bit more. We did a good job there, but I think that if I'm out of town or Jake's out of town or Matt's out of town, we have to have who's responsible for what in place and people know it. So we're going to do that. There are some longer term, higher impact, higher cost, more planning time things that we need to look at as well. The generator that acted up is 30 years old. So that's about $600K to look at replacing that, but we need to look at that. So we're going to start figuring out how we handle that. One need that was identified earlier is a way to get route schedules done quicker. So whether they're emergency schedules that we can have standing and just kind of tweak as needed, or snow and ice schedules, we have different routes and different ways of how we're traveling, deviations in the routes themselves. But if we have half the bus operators available, right, how do we determine which routes those are going to go out? So we're working on that. A much bigger issue is we need to update our continuity of operations plan for various reasons. This ice storm kind of shed a light on the difficulties with charging electric buses on ice. But we're also, if you listen to, and we heard this all last year at United Front, Mayor Van Gordon talk about levees and if we're underwater and how do you charge buses when you're underwater or even knee deep in water? Who's volunteering to do that, right? So where we're located, if we were to have something that, big earthquake, we're landlocked. We're stuck right here. We can't get vehicles anywhere else. We do have properties over on Garfield, and we probably need to look at alternative operation sites, whether we have mobile dispatching or we utilize RideSource or we utilize, is it 310 Garfield, 410, one of the 10s, 310 Garfield site is ours as well. We need to start thinking through what that looks like. Now, we don't have I talk about this with the team. We don't have the time nor the talent to put a real effective COOP plan together. So we're going to start having conversations. I have a meeting scheduled with the Vice President of Resiliency over at U of O. We're going to talk with him. I talk with the county administrator tomorrow afternoon. We're going to talk with him as well. We're going to start to put together what do we do? How do we operate? When these events happen, these different command control centers open up, we need to have a plan on how we integrate there. If something bigger were to happen in Lane County, we're not in charge, we're a resource. So we need to understand how to be the best resource that we can be. So we're going to start doing some background work on that. That will be reflected in an upcoming budget because we need to get that done. We're going to need some outside help on that. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for us and for the community. So those are the things that we've learned through this process. Again, a lot of good work was done, but I think that in terms of long-term for the organization, for the region, we've got to get that continuity of operations plan squared away, and we have to know where we're going to be operating if something major were to happen. Take any questions.
Thanks for that update. Any questions? Pete?
Thank you, James. And that was very comprehensive. And I actually just want to say, number one, I think you guys did an amazing job with dealing with this storm, which was very much, we seem to be getting more of these, unfortunately, as our climate is changing. And I saw a wonderful picture of a bus absolutely encased in ice on Facebook, and so I'm pretty sure that bus wasn't going anywhere. The question I have for you, I will tell you that everybody, I personally just kind of sheltered in place, but all my friends who tried even to get outside slipped and fell. Luckily, none of them really hurt themselves. But if you're in a situation where people have the potential of harming themselves just to get to work, is that a liability for us as an organization?
I think it's indicative of what's going on throughout the entire system. And at some point, there is liability for us, right? So one thing that we noticed was our stations, those were all encased in ice. And even if we can clear our stations, our stops, so our stops for MX couldn't get close enough to the platforms, we would have been boarding people in the street. So yeah, from that standpoint, there could have been some liability for us if we would have operated that way. However, the path of travel to get to the station or the stop matters. Now that's not in our control, for the most part. But if it's that bad and the operating conditions are what they were, then certainly there would have been some unsafe things that we would have been doing in the operation.
Yeah, thank you.
Other comments or questions? I had one, it's regarding the homeless, which is a community problem. It's obvious you're having conversations with community members. Is it a topic of conversation about what's to do to make sure that those who have no transportation and no housing are able to get to a place where they can stay warm and potentially stay alive?
Yeah, it's an absolute conversation. I think, Gino, that was the hardest part of stopping service. That, when we're operating on ice, we're rendered in the same position as everyone else, and we just can't get there. And we would have been doing more harm to the community if we did operate.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions? A lot of good work there. Thank you.
I thank the staff. Thank you.
Next item is recommendation on the Hunsaker property. Joe McCormick. Welcome, Joe.
Might be giving myself up here. I have a boot on, but I was the guy that hit his head on the concrete.
Oh,
Call me clumsy. Okay, get myself together here. Do you want me to do anything here? Or are you controlling it? You control it. All right. Good evening. So we're following up on a conversation that we had last September regarding the Hunsaker property. We're recommending a partnership with the city of Eugene, and we're asking for your concurrence on that approach this evening. We feel it's directionally correct with regard to the existing policies that we do have. And over the next several months, we would plan to work on our work plan and bring that back to you for consideration and approval, probably later this spring. So that's the intent of this evening's presentation. Next slide, please. This is nice, not to look over my shoulder. All right, first we're going to review a few details about the property that we're talking about. So it's been a few months. I just want to remind you about the property that we're speaking of, and some of our takeaways from last September's board meeting. Then we'll cover at a high level vision for the Hunsaker property. We'll review our current policy regarding LTD's role in TOD, or transit-oriented development. Then we're going to suggest a possible strategy and framework to accomplish that, and wrap it up with some next steps. Okay. Next slide, please. So the Hunsaker property, we acquired that property back in 2015 as part of the Santa Clara Station project. And so we didn't need all of that. So there's a remnant piece of the property, which is what we're talking about. And it's just shy of 5 acres, as you can see on the screen. And it has a land use overlay on it called a plan unit development. So that's just some land use parameters as to what can and can't be built on the property. And in 2020, we actually did an appraisal just to understand what the value was. So at that point in time, it was $2.8 million was the value of that whole parcel there you see circled in red. Next slide, please. So elements of a vision expressed by the board back in September, we believe are in alignment with what we've heard from the neighborhood and the city over the last few months. Our takeaway from last meeting with the board is your desire to take advantage of that real estate asset to help create something special in the Santa Clara neighborhood, something that would leverage the adjacent station and the services that we offer there. A development that's designed with input from the community, reflecting the needs and the character of that particular neighborhood. A development that contributes and stimulates further economic activity. A mixed-use development that could include different types of housing. And something that would include new park space and recreation for the neighborhood and a gathering spot for the neighborhood. I'll pause there. Does that sound like some of what we talked about last September? Does that ring true? I just want to be sure. Okay, cool. Next slide, please. So regarding LTD's current policy, we don't have a lot of policy that speaks specifically about what to do with property, but this is something that I think relates. We believe that supporting a vision like the Hunsaker vision that we're talking about is in alignment with our current policies that speaks to LTD's role in TOD. Currently, the long-range transit plan, and this is a snippet of it on the screen, is the source of several goals and strategies that speak to collaborating with partners and seek investment opportunities along frequent transit network corridors. The plan is intended to be updated in the next couple of years, so it is worth revisiting these strategies to confirm that they're still relevant to the board. So we can talk about that tonight, and of course, we are going to go through a process to update it over the next 18 months as well. And I'll walk through each one of these. And Tom, who helped draft this plan back in 2014, is here if you want to dive deeper into it. But generally speaking, I would say this policy is saying that we're going to work well with others and coordinate our services and our plans with the investments of our partner agencies around town. So generally speaking, that's kind of what these get at too. So I'll just go down each one of these highlighted ones, and then we can pause and see if those still ring true for us. And like I said, we can dive deeper with Tom here. So under the long-range transit plan, goal number 1, the strategy 15B, work with partner agencies to evaluate the development of a transit-oriented development program in connection with FTN corridors. And under goal 2, strategy 21A, actively develop and maintain relationships with economic development interests throughout the region. Strategy 21B, collaborate with regional partners to align transit service and infrastructure investments with economic development goals of the region. And strategy 22C, seek co-investment opportunities with regional partners along FTN corridors, such as aligning investments in economic development, affordable housing, and other modal investments. So I will pause there. Did you want to?
Can you just FTN?
Frequent transit network. Yeah. So
I think we're good.
you good?
Keep going.
All right. Keep on working. Sorry, Tom. There'll be more opportunity to talk about transit long-range plans in the future here. Like I said, we'll update it. So we'll come back and talk more about that stuff. Next slide, please. So developing property for purposes other than public transit, just strictly public transit. We've got a fair amount of experience building stations. But other than public transit is something that we don't have extensive experience in, and frankly don't have the knowledge or capacity in-house to do. Therefore, a successful outcome is going to rely on some strong partnerships. We recognize that there are multiple ways to go about this. However, to achieve a viable development that is in alignment with the board's intent, we're proposing that we enter into an agreement with the city of Eugene. The city has experience and a dedicated staff to facilitate development efforts like the Hunsaker project. The city has also uniquely positioned to access park funding and affordable housing funds that would make this vision viable for a developer to actually pursue. And I'll also mention that the Santa Clara neighborhood, who has a significant stake in the outcome of this, must help us to inform what success looks like. Engagement would include the recent visioning efforts that the city has facilitated, as well as involvement at some level throughout the entire process. Next slide, please. So our strategy is to keep our eye on the prize and focus on the outcomes. We need to play our part, both as a neighbor and as the public mobility service, and help define what success looks like. And I would also encourage us to let others play to their strengths to help move the vision forward. Next slide, please. So we're proposing a scenario that LTD sells the property to the city of Eugene. I think I've said that a few times. Sorry. This sales The sale would be tied to conditions of a negotiated price, as well as specific development goals that are consistent with the board's vision. A detailed scope of the development process would be included, as well as defining what LTD's role is throughout the process. So we would embed that all in an agreement with the city if we went this particular route. Approaching the real estate transaction this way, I think, is the most expedient and cost-effective way for LTD to achieve our desired outcomes. With clear expectations as part of the sale, the city would then be able to go and do what they do best, which is begin solicitation and engagement with the development community. Again, as a key partner and that has a stake in that neighborhood, will remain engaged throughout the process, no matter what. We'll also continue to explore improved mobility services during this process at the station, including improvements to fixed route service, potentially bike share and other on-demand type services. And we'll also continue to leverage our communication tools and put into action the methods that resulted out of the COCA, which is the Community Outreach and Communications Assessment. I do want to pause there because that's kind of the meat of what I'm talking about tonight. Is there any feedback on that?
Questions or comments?
Sorry if this
Go
is,
ahead. No, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. If, I know that the city is experiencing some budget issues. Do they have the resources to do a purchase?
They do have a couple of dedicated funds. They do have some park funds they've identified for this area of town. And then what they have access to as far as affordable housing would have to be dedicated to this, and they do have access to those as well. Beyond that, we'd have to work through the resource scenario there, but they have expressed that this scenario could work in one form or another.
Does that include the city council? Are they supportive of this or?
Did you have
that's-
some?
Oh, sorry.
And Joe and I have talked about this at a high level, but there's options where potentially the city pays some amount and then the balance is paid in a promissory note or something like that after, they sell the property to the developer. So we're, working through all those options to recouping the value of the property is obviously important to both parties, I think.
I know this doesn't sound very positive, but I guess I expressed some concern about the city's capacity to develop. I mean, looking at the city hall, some of the other projects that they have proposed and haven't really come to fruition particularly well. So do we feel confident that they are going to be able to take this on and see it through?
I think the one thing there's a number of things we share with the city, but they also want to see something like this happen up there. And so there's no question about the energy and desire to do something up there. They have plenty of examples of things I think that have turned out well, and there's some things that are dragging and taking a little bit longer. So I think that's a good question. And so whatever dialogue or negotiation we have with them on this, we're going to want to have some concrete deliverables as we go through. And then Chris and I have talked about, and we'll have to think about what happens if this or that doesn't happen. But every indication right now is that it can.
It's exciting. I just want to express concern about capacity and institutional ability to see it through.
Understood.
So I had a question. First of all, I appreciate that we're starting to focus in on some of the details, but there are a lot more to come.
Yes, there is.
So what I'm seeing, I think, is, our role is the heaviest when we're talking about the property disposal. And then our role would probably become that of just another community participant in the project. Or is it something else? Or is it?
Are you talking about the board's role or LTD's role? Okay. Yeah, as far as the board's role, any real estate transaction is going to have to come in front of the board for approval. we're suggesting that we actually bring our more detailed work plan to you and those conditions that we're agreeing to that are going to be part of that transaction before we even get to that point, to get concurrence on that. And then I would suggest our role throughout the process and the boards is to remain engaged with the community. And we'll have some say at the table during the work with the developer.
So the transaction, assume it's complete. I'm assuming the city of Eugene would then be the ultimate decision makers in terms of what happens within the context of whatever was negotiated in the property disposal. Is that right?
At that point, they would be the main facilitator of the process.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Question?
Yes.
What was the purpose of the acquisition at the time? Was it intended for a development like this, or was it an investment?
It was an all or nothing. So the whole parcel was for sale. And it was actually from the bank at the time, because the previous developer could make something happen. So the bank was selling the whole thing. We knew it was more than we needed for the station, but we knew we wanted a station in that space somewhere. So the intent was to take what we needed for the transit station, parcel it off, and then the question is, what do we do afterwards? There was no intent at that time to for LTD to take ownership and develop it. We didn't really have anything other than, well, we'll probably have to sell it at some point. Yeah.
Okay. And the last appraisal was 2020. So I know as part of the disposal, there would be a new appraisal. But would it benefit us to have an idea? Because my sense is it's probably worth more than that 2.8 now.
Possibly. Yeah. I'm not, property's done this and that, but 4 years is too long. So we'll certainly do another one to know where we're at. And I'll just mention that the rules change when there's 1 penny of federal money in a piece of real estate. This one has no federal dollars or interest in it. So that gives us a little bit more flexibility when we're negotiating with a potential buyer, whether it's the city or some other private entity. And so we can negotiate up or down, but we're not beholden to that. Yeah.
Pete?
At some point, you've talked to the city of Eugene, right, about some of these things?
We have, I would say, yeah, over the course of last year, we've talked.
And you're talking to a community development
We are,
department? Have you talked to planning?
we have.
Okay. Now, are they interested in putting in dollars into this kind of project?
They are.
So, have they talked about, using, community development block grant funds, or have they been that specific yet?
They haven't gotten that specific, other than their ability to access affordable housing funds to help subsidize that component, as well as identified park funds. Beyond that, we haven't gotten to details about how the rest of it might be financed.
Okay, because not that I'm agnostic to the exact details, but the reason I ask is the different types of funding locks you into certain different types of things, and as soon as you decide to use those things, and I want to see where the city's kind of watch what the city wants to do. And we have more flexibility because it's just because we haven't put any money, federal money into it, as you just said. So, thanks.
Yeah.
Heather?
I have more of a curiosity, and this is not my area, but I just remember people really complaining about the congestion right along that area for people commuting to the northern part of Eugene there, or coming to Beltline. So I'm just curious about whether this is going to contribute, or do we assume that's going to be addressed? Because it's a major problem, as I understood it from colleagues. So that's the extent of my knowledge, but I just know that there was a lot of complaint and prevention of some people looking to buy up north of that area right where we're talking about.
Right.
So
Yeah.
just curious.
Yeah. I think it depends on the intensity of the development and
Yeah.
how many trips it would generate.
That hasn't come up in discussion.
It has not come up
Okay,
in
just
discussion yet.
curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Susan?
Is there a timeline or is there urgency or we have time to be sort of deliberate about the process? And then also, do you expect mostly community support or this is a community that has to be engaged? Do you think that's going to be a problem or people are all going to be behind this mostly? Or do we have a sense of that yet?
We do have some sense of it, but I would say we need to still stay engaged and bring them along regardless. But what you spoke of last September aligns much more with that neighborhood out there than what we were talking about 4 odd years ago. So I don't think it's a controversial thing.
And I think, we've stayed in close contact with both the Santa Clara neighborhood and River Road neighborhood. Kelly and I met with other leadership a few months ago, and I spoke with both of them by phone, within one of them today and the other one last week, to bring them up to speed on what we were talking about tonight. And they're generally supportive. They just want to make sure that they're involved in the process and have a real say in what gets put there. I know that used to be a Grange site, so they're really interested in a community meeting place. Is one of the things that they'll bring up each time we talk to them. So making sure we leverage what we're learning through our communications assessment and outreach assessment will be important, making sure they're engaged.
Question? You have a bit more.
I had a little bit more, but we've hit on most of it. So it should go quick. Yeah. Ready? All right.
Don't rush.
Next slide, please. These are actually just some photos the city sent to me that just illustrating some of the engagement that they've had in the past. And if we want to go down this path, I would think about maybe having some of the economic development staff come in and talk about these processes, and talk about some of the examples of their projects and what that looks like, timeline, and so forth. So I'll just buzz through these real quick. This is some of their engagement efforts at the Santa Clara and River Road communities. I believe when they were putting together their neighborhood plan. Next slide, please. These are a few of the projects. Some not complete yet, but a mix of private and public ones. And EWEB property being an example of where the EWEB didn't have property they need to use anymore, and so the city helped facilitate that development effort down there. Next slide, please. Some affordable housing projects that the city helped work on. Next slide, please. And of course, the city has a long history of park development, and so they know that piece of work very well. Next slide, please. All right, next steps. So we're going to ensure we're compliant with the current policies. We'll define our role in the development process. We'll outline those conditions of development that match the vision of the board. We'll engage with the neighborhood, and we'll bring back a plan later this spring. This is my next steps on my list, unless you give me more. And then what we'll need from the board as we go through this, continue your feedback on this recommendation, some general direction on the development conditions. I think we'll be coming back and asking for some of that maybe sooner than later. Policy review and approval of our role in this process. And then, like I said, at some point we'll need authorization for a real estate transaction. That is all I have for you.
Questions?
Yeah. All right, thank you.
So I assume what we're saying is continue to work on the details.
Yes.
And come back to us later, correct? Nobody is saying, don't do this.
Got it.
So keep moving.
I appreciate that. Thanks for clarifying that.
Okay. Thank you. On to the recruitment and retention update. Camille?
Good evening. So I will start with just a quick reminder that at January's board meeting, we brought the entire Chiefs team before you to give you a cross-departmental overview of the district's recruitment and retention efforts across the board. So the purpose of today is just to provide you a quick update as to what has taken place between the January meeting and now. And we have quite a few things to update you on. So we are very excited. We got through the procurement process, and we do have a recruiter on board. We ended up procuring Adecco. This recruiter has brought on 5 potential public safety officers just this last week, which is very exciting. We are currently at 13 officers, and we are working towards 15 and a half. That may seem like an odd number. That is a comparable number industry-wide for our size of transit agency. We're anticipating starting to get operators sent to us from, or potential operators sent to us from the recruiter beginning as early as next week. We currently have 15 candidates in our candidate pool that have been invited to do assessments, which is very exciting. Currently, so last month when we reported, we had approximately 185 operators, including the class that was currently running. We do have 183 operators now with the current class. As you can see, though, we do have our candidate pool is growing. We also now do have a bi-monthly cadence set up for our job fairs, which we're working with WorkSource through Lane Workforce Partnership on. So our next job fair will be April 2nd, and we'll be holding those every other month. With that, we did have as we had mentioned last month, we did have a Drive the Bus event scheduled for February 24th. We didn't quite get as much takers on that event as we had anticipated. So we are just kind of pushing that back a little bit and reevaluating where that's going to fit better, more effectively with the recruitment work from the recruiter and the bi-monthly job fairs that we're doing. Additionally, as a reminder, we also have been working intensely on our community partnerships, such as Lane Workforce Partnership, as I mentioned, the Springfield Chambers Work Ready program, Opportunity Oregon, which is a second chance program, WorkSource, which we're partnering on our job fairs with. We recently had some really exciting conversation with Lane Community College and their industry advisory committee that they have established or are just in the process of establishing. So we will also have a seat at that table, which is different agencies in town focused on trade development or trade training development. So we are working to leverage and expand those relationships. We have conversations in process with sponsors, which is another second chance program, much like Opportunity Oregon. We have conversations coming with Goodwill and St. Vincent de Paul, who we anticipate also being able to source candidates from. With all of this recruitment work and candidate sourcing and community partnership work that we've been doing, we have also, like we had mentioned last month, been setting up a staggered class schedule. We had anticipated setting up 2 staggered classes running simultaneously, and we've done even better than that. We've now set up a schedule for running 3 staggered classes so that as our candidate pool continues to increase, we will be able to have the capacity to train all of them. We are also working on developing additional recruitment materials that are a little more people focused, and making some adjustments to our careers webpage as well. Pat has done an extensive amount of work with Terrell Group on our storytelling videos and our recruitment efforts in that direction. So much so that we won the APTA award for best recruitment campaign. Thank you. Video campaign. So we are making some adjustments to our recruitment materials and our careers webpage to better align with the efforts that Pat has done on that campaign. And lastly, very exciting, certainly not least, we are actively working with ATU on the foundational work of developing apprenticeship programs for our fleet mechanics and for our bus operators. We're working through the developing the training materials and meeting the bully requirements, et cetera. Right now, we anticipate meeting the April 19th deadline for submission, program submission to the apprenticeship committee, which would be a June presentation. We're pushing for that timeline so that if they come back and need us to make any adjustments, we can then turn around to the next submission date, which is July, with a September presentation. And then our job on the development of those programs is complete. So just throw a lot at you really quickly. Of course, there is a lot more work still developing for our recruitment and retention efforts, and we will continue to update all of you with that. That is what I have for you today.
Thank you, Camille. Impressive amount of work. Any questions or comments?
It's very much a team effort, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have other business board member reports. Anything to report there? Nope. Delegated authority report. Any questions regarding that? Nope. Monthly department reports. Lots of information in there. Any questions?
Can I pull one thing out of that?
That'd be great.
So, Brad, Josh, come into the light, lurking in the shadows. All right. So I want to introduce you. You all know Josh. Josh is the head of our public safety. Josh's team has grown a little bit. We've added some folks to it. Josh has been managing that area by himself since I've been here. So you can imagine over 120 hours of service each week, more than that by one person. We've recently brought on board Brad Korsh, Sean Hughes. Sean is a 18-year vet with EPD, but he's also worked with us for the past 2+ years, 2.5 years or so. So he's got experience and connections both in law enforcement, but also in our version of how we do business here. We also brought on Brad Korth. Brad what's Brad's official title?
He's a public safety supervisor.
Public safety supervisor. Brad's, again, has experience in law enforcement. He oversaw all of Peace House locations for 5 years, over 5 years. He was also a deputy sheriff and a Idaho state police officer as well. So we've added some connections and some talent to the team. We are not trying to be a police force. I want to be very clear, but we do need to have the contacts and connections and the know-how and how we deploy to make sure that our community is safe and our passengers are safe. We recently had the opportunity to go over to Springfield to spend time with Sheriff Andrew Scheer, and Michelle was there as well. And our public safety team was honored at the Springfield Police Annual Awards for coordination with Springfield Police and Josh and his team were there to accept that award. And I think that's the important piece, not the award, but the coordination. And we'll continue to do that with law enforcement. So I wanted to introduce you to Sean. We, as Camille said, we did add 2 other public safety officers over the time that we've been since we last met. And one other last piece, marketing. This is related to my presentation. We are rolling out a SMS text communication platform. It's an opt-in platform that will have several different channels that will allow us to communicate to our customers if there's route deviations, but also will allow us to communicate internally if something's going on site that our employees need to be aware of. So that's in testing right now, and we hope to have that up and running fairly in a short time. So if there are any other questions, I'll take this. So I did want to pull those couple of.
Any questions? Great. In the packet, there's a listing of future board meetings and topics. The only thing I want to note there is we discovered this evening that the next meeting, which is scheduled for probably March 20th, is when the United Front event is happening. So several people are traveling to Washington, D.C. Others will be out of town. So we'll be working to reschedule that March 20th meeting to another date. I believe we'll send out an email, see if we can get a better date. Any items people would like for future board meetings? Okay. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Recording stopped.